Take a break from your busy schedule and join Harold Sala for Guidelines for Living.
One must forgive one's enemies, said Sigmund Freud, but not before they have been hanged. Such graciousness! One who adopts that attitude must hope never to have enemies himself, for the person who cannot forgive burns the bridge over which he himself must someday certainly pass. Some things are difficult, perhaps almost impossible to forgive without God's help, but His help is available. Have you ever thought much about what the consequences would be if God adopted the same attitude towards us? Like Freud, we think, I'll never forget that, whatever you choose to call that person, as long as he lives. We mean it too. And that is exactly why some people honestly feel that God can never forgive them. They are convinced that God treats us the same way we often treat each other. How about it? Does He? Or was the author of Psalms right when he wrote, "If you, O Lord, should mark iniquities, O Lord, who could stand? But with you there is forgiveness, that you may be feared." Will God forgive anything? I mean, is there any sin so great that He says, "I'm sorry, can't forgive you of that"? In pondering the issue, let's take a look at 3 words which dealt with varying degrees or issues of wrongdoing. In the Old Testament, several words were used which described human failure. The first word, transgression, was a word that dealt with the intention and purpose of wrongdoing. The act of wrongdoing was usually premeditated. A person did something, a theft, a murder, a sexual relationship with his neighbor's wife, even stealing a piece of fruit in the market. And the word signifies rebellion against authority, a refusal to stay within the boundaries of what is right. This is the attitude of sin. It's a reflection of deliberate wrongdoing, when the person knows better than he or she is doing. The second word, iniquity, referred to the act of sin itself. The base meaning of the word suggests something that is twisted, crooked, or untrue. Eventually, it described a lack of conformity to what was right. Attitudes which are wrong are eventually played out in acts of wrongdoing. Every injustice, every sinful deed begins with a thought, and that thought eventually is embodied in an act which you strive to justify. The third word, sin, is the one which is most commonly used in the Old Testament. This word meant missing the mark, as an arrow which has fallen short of its target. It meant deviating from the right path, as would happen when a person comes to a fork in the road. He hesitates with uncertainty and then takes the wrong turn in the road. It may be an innocent mistake, yet no justification can excuse the fact he took the wrong path. Do you remember how David, in a moment of weakness, yielded to the flesh? Because he was the king and very powerful, he justified his wrongdoing and took Bathsheba when she was the wife of Uriah the Hittite. David used all 3 words in describing what he had done: transgression, iniquity, and sin. He openly and candidly admitted moral failure and then sought and found the forgiveness of God. As David himself said, "You are kind and forgiving, O Lord, abounding in love to all who call to you. Thank God, He's more gracious to forgive than we are. Seek, and you will find His forgiveness."
You've just heard Dr. Harold Sala with Guidelines for Living. If you'd like to listen to the program again, download a copy, subscribe to our devotional, or view other resources, visit guidelines.org. We would like to hear from you too. You can email us at info@guidelines.org. Thanks for listening, and we invite you to join us again for the next edition of Guidelines.